Boom. And we are live. And today is quite a special day because we're interviewing someone who isn't a projector. We're talking to Christo today. So hi, man. How are you doing?
Hey, Dunstan. I'm doing good. Thank you for inviting me. Cool to be here.
So we've so far we've been turning our projector spotlight on each other, and now you get to be our first generator, our first manifesting generator guest. So I'm looking forward to talking with you about it.
Well, I have to say I feel a little bit honored by that, actually, that I'm the first guest. So yeah, cool. I look forward to this talk also. You know, I'm abstract to my throat, so I don't know where it's going to lead, but I'm really excited about it.
Brilliant. So, I mean, one of the other things that's quite interesting is you've been in your experiment you've been around human design for some time, right? So I think it was 2007 when you first came across human design. What was the story there? Like, how did you first get into it?
Well, just to give you kind of a little backdrop to the story, I was already, shall we say, onto the alternative trajectory somehow. I was very tuned into Mayan astrology. And at some point I just go to Thailand and I'm visiting this remote island. And actually there was a woman from Ibiza who was just living there, kind of like an expat type of situation. And she gave me a reading then, kind of a half reading, which immediately got me hooked. Actually, it's a funny story, actually. I'm a second line. So, I mean, this whole experience really called me out because the way I came across her was I was driving on a moped through the jungle from one beach to the other. This was an island. And at one part, maybe halfway, was this cross junction between roads. And there was this, you know, a cafe, library type of thing, you know, like new age type of thing that Westerns go to. And I'm driving past there one day. I've been driving there, you know, several days. But this day, I'm heading for this beach on the other side, quite a long drive. But I'm passing this cafe and I'm just like, my body is just kind of tuning all the way to the right. I have to stop this time. I go closer. And then I find this notice with phone numbers on it, you know. And it was written somehow colorfully. I think remembering back, it was the, you know, it was a mandala basically on it. But I was just like, you know, I just ripped all the, all the phone numbers, kind of just like, you know, just this note called me out basically. And I'm giving that a lot of thoughts kind of in retrospect, because I mean, it took me years to really see that, you know, I'm abstract. I'm going to look back at experiences, then comes my truth. And I saw like how my body as a generator, like, you know, I was just ripped out of my normal routine there. So that led me to the initially somehow. And then I had a reading with this lady, and that, of course, you know, just validated my...
It's pretty international, isn't it? It's like you're from Norway and you're in Thailand and you met someone from Ibiza and you got a human design reading. Okay.
Yes, that's how it started. I mean, I like to look back at it. It started on a tropical island in Thailand, and you know, and it's been an adventure from there on. Just to give you kind of the story from there, a bit fast forward, I got back to Europe. And you're just like, you know, how do I get into this? I was just Googling human design teachers, basically. That's how simple it was. And I came across Richard Beaumont from Human Design Films in England. And then I started the LYD with him, this Living Your Design course. And that was also in 2007. And from there on, yeah, it all started somehow. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
And what's it been like since then? Like, what have you noticed has been... You know, do you feel like it changed your trajectory, or did it feel like, do you feel like moment by moment it changes your life? Like, how's life been different since human design?
I mean, it's kind of impossible to answer that because life just unfolded anyways.
Right, of course.
You know, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty clear about human design has given me tools to keep my awareness going, you know. Of course, we can elaborate on this, but maybe what I discovered most, kind of that's changed me, is actually my awareness of projectors.
Cool.
I mean, I wrote some kind of keynotes before going into this conversation, since we're kind of talking in the vicinity of projectors here now. I mean, that's just been so, it keeps dawning on me, like, you know, here is a type, you know, here is a harmonic being to me, you know, that I kind of always probably met during my childhood, you know, being unaware of human design, of course, but kind of just kept on meeting them into the present moment, basically. So I think that kind of has changed me most existentially, that like, wow, I'm living in a world now where, of course, not only projectors, the other types also, but, you know, there's this novelty about the projectors. I think that's the biggest change somehow. And adding my time with human design onto that trajectory with the projector. I mean, we met initially, you know, kind of that sprouted this conversation. You know, on my trajectory, I met 70% of projectors and 30% generators. Kind of the odds has been tilted on the head here, and, you know, looking
right. I mean, we like to think we're pretty special as projectors, right? So, because we're obviously a minority, right? So we have this whole thing of like, you know, what was it like when you found out you're a projector? And people are like, oh my God, so much made sense to me. I realized, you know, I'm not here to work, or I'm, you know, I don't always have energy or whatever. These are the kind of things. So I guess I just sort of wanted to, you know, ask you because I mean, I'm trying to imagine, like, how would it be? You know, you generate, of course, every design is so different, but as a type, you know, generators 70%. Do you feel like how is it?
I mean, just my journey, you know.
Yeah, of course.
That's been, I met projectors since the start, and somehow, yeah. I remember Richard, my mentor in human design, he kind of called me the Pied Piper. I have that in my design in the whole constitution, the Pied Piper. So, you know, I'm very well aware that, you know, the projectors had to guide me, you know, and it's kind of been a funny thing with me, since kind of I have been, I wouldn't say guiding projectors at all, but I kind of, they have summoned around me somehow. And then for years, you know, with human design and kind of in conjunction with the growing awareness of it. So, you know, and that's been crucial. Coming back to your first question a little bit, I'm abstract, so I will kind of jump a little bit, but you know, realizing my generator nature, I think looking at my design also, I had the 214 that defines me as the manifesting generator, that it's so individual, no? So I kind of always been in my individuality, but knowing about it has given me so much ease to my whole being, because, shall we say, to live out my nature, you know, it has come up, it's kind of been in conflict, shall we say, with the collective and the tribe, and, you know, the individual kind of comes, you know, has to find its place somehow. So human design has, you know, very practically helped me kind of reclaim myself, my sacral into my G, you know, this is me, you know, so that's really been of course huge in my life. And of course there's a lot of stories like this, Dunstan. I mean the book is huge, but tying both of them in, kind of knowing myself as a generator and kind of just realizing there's projectors here, kind of they go together also, you know, because it's been that process of being with projectors a lot that has made me see myself, I shall say, the wonders of my sacral nature, but also, you know, in that recognition that, you know, there has been a mutual recognition all the way, that I also see the wonders of the projectors.
So this would be a fun thing to explore, the synergy of specifically the manifesting generator and the projector as two beings that can work together. Can you share your most or any stories about how that can work well, how you've enjoyed that, how that's been fruitful for you? Like, can you give us like any, because, you know, we read about it in theory, but all right. Yeah, have you got one?
I'll try to, you know, boil it down to the essence of it, because again, I think, you know, the way I see through my abstract nature is that it's all of my experiences boil down to how I see things somehow, but I think what I've enjoyed the most in that harmonic relationship meeting projector is that I mean, I don't know. I just have to say, first of all, there's some kind of love there because it's some affinity. Because I, there's been often looking at my personality son, the 13-2 in detriment. I'm pretty narrow when it comes to the fellowship of man. I'm kind of like, very narrow somehow. So kind of in my condition field, I guess, the projector have been stuck out. And so there's just been this, in the social setting or wherever we are, like, okay, there's been some recognition there. So I kind of, that's what I liked about the projector. Kind of, they've always been online. I call them kind of, you're online somehow, yeah, I have cool stories about this. Man, talking to projectors without using the human design language, but just knowing their nature and, using other terminology somehow, also just not keynotes, but they're online, man. So and in that online-ness, shall we call it, I've enjoyed personally that their ability on one-on-one to just kind of be in front of me, as a little wind somehow, a shade a little bit in front of me. So kind of in the process we're in, and here, there are all kind of life processes in there. I mean, my last relation, just completely top context, was a projector for 5 years. So, I got to see it very granulated somehow. But this ability of the projector to really just be there as a voyeur somehow for my process, for my energy. I think that's just, it touches actually. Yeah, beautiful.
Cool. Yeah, cool. I guess it's something that I know for myself, first coming in as a projector, I was like, okay, I'm here to be a guide. How do I do guiding? And then of course you go in deeper and you realize actually you don't have to do anything. It's just being here as a projector. That it doesn't have to be asking someone questions maybe, but that thing of like, hey, just through the aura, right? Like
I think what we know from the knowledge somehow when we study this is, it's cellular.
Right.
Aura, it's the aura is energetic, but it's coming into the flesh. It's cellular. It's and so the relationship, it's always there in the auric field. But I think the gift of this knowledge, and I think also a prerequisite actually to kind of come where I've been today, and kind of this mutual recognition, is to really recognize what's going on in the field, because I think that also defines what the projectors are here to do, right? I mean, it's just not to succumb to the normal thing and just like be swallowed by that. There should be something new coming out of it, somehow, to put it in those terms.
I just lost that last. Could you say that last piece again? It just got a bit squelched by the software.
I noticed. I'll try to rewind. Can you just pick up the last thread?
Yeah, you were just saying about, we were talking about the main point I was getting.
Yeah. I just kind of, I think it's very practical to ask questions, because I think that's what we counsel projectors kind of to do. Ask a lot of questions to generators, and I think like, it's practical because you get to know it, but that's where that's recognition starts. Like, hey, we're in something here. I ask you a question, and then we start to play ball. So I think that's a prerequisite maybe to really, shall we say, transcend and to, let's say, for projectors to come to the point of success, and also for generators to really transform. Really transform. Because I think in the conditioned field, if you're going to paint a picture here now, there is a lot of projectors, generators meeting. I'm not talking about the human design community, I'm sorry, but the general mass out there, so there are guiding going on, but the lack of kind of this awareness, subtracts this recognition, so it doesn't really lead anywhere in the end. The projector gets kind of abused, shall we say, like super slaves. That's the terminology, like just kind of it. And the generators, they kind of, maybe they advance, but they will get stuck against it. And drawing in my kind of personal experience, in my last relationship, now I'm with a generator, which is correct for me. I saw that it wasn't correct for me to be in a long-term relationship with the projectors. but it was beautiful. It was perfect for what it was. I mean, it was 5 years, but we both, we use human design consciously. And then we kind of got into the bits of it, what this guide, this, shall we say, the nature of this guidance relationship and these questions, and that's very interesting. But yeah, that's another chapter actually. But then you kind of get, let the gloves off, basically, shall we say, given our 5 years, we started somewhere, which was kind of the potential for that relationship in terms of guidance, coming to success, transformation, etc. That's the nature of the relationship, the way I see it for generators and projectors. Often it can be a very sweet fairy tale, to just imbue that relationship somehow, but wow, man, it's really connected into some very, very pragmatic, shall we say, pillars. So yeah, you have to, I just have to stop now. Sometimes I have to much, but, yeah.
Well, I guess the cool thing about you've been at 12 years, right? So you've had chance to, because I think it takes time to spot the patterns, doesn't it? It takes time to notice. So a 5-year relationship, that's a pretty good training in what a projector is, or at least what that particular projector is. You get to experience.
I guess, to be honest with you, I think that what I've experienced projectors to be somehow, I mean, I can, their onlineness, their connectivityness is so amazing, because I've seen, for example, a projector in a social setting, and I can see kind of the not self really playing out, getting all attention from many, being the center point, being the intelligent one, setting the standards of the whole thing, kind of high, rocking the situation. There's all of these mechanisms out there somehow.
I think we can definitely be very manipulative in our not self as projectors, because we can we can see things, so we can be very
I think so. I think so, but I think when you're coming to that spectrum of it, then there's bitterness involved.
Yeah.
And then there's a reason there's a bitterness also. That generator might just be an idiot, and just like not want to change. And you need to hear it 100 times,
Nothing to be done here. Yeah.
So I mean, there's this one spectrum of the projector, and that, but later in that night, that's very same projector, when I have him one-on-one, it's like, wow, I get my mind blown off by the frequency that he he actually helps enable me come into.
Nice.
For the time being, I'm in that aura, for that projector
time.
Aura.
Yeah. So it's the experience of you coming into your vibration, into a specific frequency for you. So it's the effect that you how it is for you. So it's nothing to do with them. We're about the other, aren't we? We're about.
But I mean, yes. But that's making me remember kind of keynote that my previous partner and myself, we kind of added to the projector this golden conduit. There is this golden nuggets with the projectors. They have this gold to offer. I know this is not an official keynote, but there is some really golden value there for the generators and the manifesting generators to be in that relationship. And I think I love how we can skip a beat, and I'm a manifesting generator, I can jump, just see me jump, boy. No, but coming into my relationship, some of the most valuable things I extracted was really those really mundane processes where I was just, we were into some trajectory, she's working with my energy, I'm coming to a point of frustration and anger, that's my, shall we say, pole signs. But beneath that is trauma, it's depression, it's all of this other stuff, right? So I mean, it's real life stuff, and I guess I'm remembering back, there was just one moment where I kind of see that she was just like every morning, shall we say, she was there for me somehow, in our bubble. you know, and we were aware of our bubble that, okay, we're on the depths here now into some guiding stuff here now. It's not easy now, you know, because there's a lot of, you know, shit stored in me around that, you know, etc.
Yeah.
So this is stuff I learned to actually being in the presence of the projector, actually, you know, just
Thanks for opening that one up, because I think it's something that kind of like, you know, as a projector, it's like you know, we might have a feeling of saying, well, you know, I really want to be guiding, right? I really want to be feeling like I'm useful. I really want to feel like I can make some difference to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the thing of being a projector is we're always going to have way more to give than anyone can receive. So it's actually, you know, we can be bitter about that. We can be like, I've got so much to give and no one can or we can just be like, actually, I can just contain my energy and I can hold that. Because I think that's really important. Like you know, you mentioned you were touching into some very raw places, or some wounding was there, or whatever. It's like, you know, if someone's going to invite a projector to come in and support them to go to those, you know, raw places, maybe to navigate through some of those, you know, it's like, I sometimes use the analogy of getting someone to clean out your toilet, you know, clean out the pipes blocked. It's shitty work, you know, messy for everyone concerned, right? So yeah, it makes a lot of sense that, you know, we need to have a lot of humility if we're coming in, and, you know, we need to be ready, we need to be contained, but not to, you know, just to have dealt with our bitterness, because if we're bitter about it all, you know, and we're trying to get an invitation, it's going to be, we're not going to be so much use.
Then you eat the shit, just to kind of like, you have to eat shit instead. I mean, I think right. I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be vulgar here, but like, I mean, but you're really dealing with my shit, you know, and then coming back to my experience, you know, like one of my most revealing moments was, you know, she been there for me, like I can just, you know, then I get to observe my, you know, shall we call it, you know, inner child or whatever it is, who had, you know, something from the past that was a reaction pattern for me that was just like more connected to my mother and father, you know, than her at all. But still, she was, you know, she was just a professional kind of in it, a professional. Had it been a generator, she would have been, I think, reacted too much. We would have been, you know, we've been far off into some density of what was the situation was really going on. But she was there. But I remember, you know, in my journey there, I was kind of at this low point where I was even like, oh, she's even there. And then, you know, I was still kind of like, I still kind of lashed out at her kind of with my frustration somehow, you know. And you know, and that was for me just like, I was just after that like, wow, you know, they just stick with you kind of in thick and thin. And she did it masterfully, because you know, that just made me able to see, because you know, it's a projection, right? Projection, you know.
Yeah, we're amplifying it up.
Yeah. And on the surface, you know, when you first meet a projector, it's kind of fine. Everything is roses and peaches. It's all potential, blah, blah, blah. But when you're in there, when, as we called it, you know, me and my previous partner, when you're deep into those chambers of the sacral, you know, when you're touching stuff that doesn't want to live, shall we say. I mean, you know, I'm not talking about being suicidal. I have deep respect for people who feel that, but more, you know, tuning into the nature of the sacral, which has been depressed, and that's very complicated to deal with. I mean, and I could see how complicated I was. I was just, you know, just to kind of clear the sky a little bit what's going on. I mean, it was just it was my frustration, you know. I got to see my frustration, you know, and kind of that other person being in my life over time, just to make me see that, could eventually make me transcend it. But you know, it was tough job, really tough job. So thanks, you know, thanks for letting me share this. Actually, I've been waiting, you know, to share my experience with this. But I think this, for me, demonstrates, you know, the importance, you know, or just the love I have for projectors, and the love for that harmonious relationship with the projectors and the generators.
Sure.
You know, it's just like,
Yeah, what I'm taking from it is just as a projector, not to take it personally. You know, that's just the you know, we're all human and we've all got our shit. And you know, if I'm, you know, if a projector's in that situation, if I'm in that situation with someone and I'm taking it personally, I'm not available, I'm not there, I'm not useful. You know, it's like whatever it might be, even if, you know, we're clearing our wounding, whatever type we are, is not necessarily an easy, happy process. But through going through that, I think that we do get that, I don't know, like that mutual respect you have of like, damn, that person's, you know, still there doing whatever they're doing. I'm still here. And it's like, you know, we've been through all of that and here we are, you know, so.
And I want to get into the other coin of it also. I mean, what this has done, you know, and but it was also fascinating for me to see when I was in my not self journey, you know, dealing in our relationship, we kind of dealing with this stuff. It was so fascinating to see that, you know, just the construct of the projector and generator, to see that, you know, what the projector takes in is what it has to deal with. And I think just to throw the ball over to your court, also kind of with bitterness and kind of being in those situations also, I mean, you know, I think a projector needs to see also when it just needs to cut off from that generator or that energy it's working with, and just remove itself from it. And I think my projector in that case was very good at that, because she did that somehow. You know, had that ability to always disconnect, always withdrawing to her own energy, not feeling that she needed to fix the situation or anything, just like, you know, just left it very, very cold somehow. But that coldness was kind of like that, you know, that warmth and love that your parents kind of give you because they're just there for you somehow. Then maybe not, you know.
I guess maybe it's the invitation, you know, maybe there's no invitation. It's like stepping away. It's like, you know, just because, you know, it's a moment by moment thing, isn't it? Because if you're it's like, hey, my work's done here for now. You know, step back. It's been funny for me because I just literally my dad was visiting and he's a 2-4 manifesting generator as well. So it's very interesting. I just said goodbye to him and now we're here, and it's yeah, very, very interesting to I did a reading on his chart and you know, went through it, and it's so interesting because actually just by looking at his chart, I'm like, geez, this is accurate. And so many of these things that, you know, when I was younger, I was like, oh, Dad, you should do this, you should do that, you should do the other. And it's like, actually looking at it now, I'm like, you know, he's in his own way, you know, he's been living his design, even though he doesn't know anything about it. And he's not really into anything like that. So it's very interesting. Will you talk a little bit more about your 2-4 as a profile?
Sure. I was just taking in your story with your father here, and also, I mean, I think that in my observation, in my years also, I think that things are running. You know, things are running as they should, shall we say? You know,
right?
Self, not self. You know.
Yeah.
But kind of coming into this other side of the coin here, you know, I think that kind of being guided through that valley of darkness, to call it that, of my frustration and anger, coming onto the other side, seeing the potential of me, you know, my abilities as a generator, manifesting generator, also drawing in my 2-4, you know, my nature. I think that's the kind of the cusps of what the dawn of what, shall we say, the 9th center awareness is about. Really to get to new places. We called it always kind of level up somehow, you know, a new level up. It felt that literally when we were during our guidance relationship, you know, there was this pull and push somehow, you know, you have to push the dirt, and then there was this pull, and I had experienced a lot of, I mean, for my part, it's mutation, right? I come to a new place, but kind of coming more and more into my the capacity of my form, the form principle. And one thing is kind of operating it, operating it with my inner authority. I have a sacral authority, so kind of just sharpening my awareness and tune to what's going on with the energy of my voice all the time. But also, I would say what the projectors have shown me is this 9-centered awareness, and then coming into the G center, what the G center means. What does it mean to be a 9-centered being? There's a lot of questions that have kind of come out from that specific projector relationship. And not only that, the relationship I kind of been describing now, but that's coming my 12 years with human design. There's always been this, shall we say, flavor with the projector that kind of makes me see ahead somehow. So yeah, I guess that was the 2-4 talking a little bit. The missionary, that's the keynote for the missionary actually. The keynote for the 2-4 is a missionary. So
I was reading today about, specifically, I was looking up your profile, and I was reading, Ra was talking about how natural the second line is. You know, the natural talent, the natural ability of a second line, but it's in that hermit mode of just off on its own, being talented, but it's almost like unaware of its own talent, and someone then says, oh wow, you that was amazing, and it's almost like the person might be almost like a bit embarrassed, or like, what do you mean?
Yes.
Or something like that, which yeah, that's the hermit, the second line, very interesting to me.
I guess it's the paradox I just came to live with, that the most amazing things I do in this life, I do them utterly alone.
Right.
Maybe when I'm in nature, or so yeah. On the on the day-to-day magic, life somehow. I mean, the 2-4 has a specific process. Just to describe my process as a 2-4, I mean, it is a hermit, and I like to be alone, and that's how I dwell and recharge somehow my hermitness somehow. I mean, it's imbued with this magic of nature. For me,
like just being with your talent seems really like, just really like being alone with your talent, not needing anyone else to see you or be with you.
It's a talent. It's too much of a, shall we say, fabricated word for a natural hermit. It's what nature gives me somehow, and I think that's interesting to see the 2-4 specifically, because the 4th line is the network. So the 2-4 lives this duality of a life, where it's just being alone, like minding my own business. This is just my life, and I'm kind of hesitating to let people into it even. And then there's this 4th line, like, wow, I'm just the butter in the porridge in the center. It's just like, it's really a center role, and the way it works is that I'm being called by the network. The second I'm being called, so it's always a network that calls me into a function. So I would almost call it. I moved to Romania last year, so I don't have any experiences from here yet, because I'm kind of building my network here. But from Norway, where I have an established network, I could really see this over the years, that I was even living on a farm deep in the forest. So, I was just called into the city. So, now and then, it was just going to a lot of people, just having this function somehow. And it was interesting, because when I'm, in that 4th line mode, it's just like, the network is everything, it's social, doesn't really want to leave it. But suddenly the hermit is kind of calling back his nature, like, get the hell out of here.
That's so perfect. I've so got you like in the forest somewhere in Norway, and then that's you hermit, but then you can go to the city, and all those connections are just there the whole time. And it's like, okay, I want to go back and be a hermit again now, like go back to my second
so I guess that, the talents or what is being kind of called out in the second line is actually something that the 4th line is kind of they are describing it a bit, what's needed somehow. I mean, again, thinking about the Maya and the whole program, why things happen as they do somehow. And in that kind of being called in on the stage again, I've literally seen these talents coming out of me, or just having what's needed at that point, up to the point where I'm kind of going into the experience, not knowing what's going to happen somehow. I just kind of trusting that, you know, just this frequency of being called in and just letting it come, and just knowing that I have it without knowing what it is at all.
Bit of a mystery. I like that. It's like, yeah, in there. Yeah. Well, let's have a question. I know we have Victorine here. We have Pascal here. Would either of you like to would anyone like to ask a question? We have some online as well. Mm-hmm. There were so many questions, Christo. Everyone was like, I want to know this, I want to know that, I want to know the other.
Okay.
So let's have one of those to So we have a question from Jen. Mm-hmm. And so her question is as follows. So projectors are here to guide, right? Mm-hmm. So in your experience, is there a profound difference between the guidance, advice, intellectual interaction of a projector versus that of the other aura types? Or is the distinction fairly unnoticeable?
Just to let me see if I get the question clear. If the other types also have guiding capabilities?
I think what she's asking is, does it feel different to you when you're getting, guidance from a projector versus when you're getting someone else? Do you notice it differently?
Yes, I would say that I as a generator, I'm not here to listen to an individual. So I don't really listen to people what they're saying. So I think when people are in the realm of telling me something to do, it's something else going on there. My experience of guiding is something else. It's more like, without being connected to the emotional realm, just like, I'm just in the sea, there's a wave coming, I'm on my surfboard, and then suddenly there's this there's this should I say companion there that is just there somehow in my field. So for me, guidance is, it can be kind of mundane in the beginning of a relationship, kind of like I would say the courting process with the projector. This can also be with males, no problem. It's not kind of this androgeneity to the projector, I feel somehow, or at least my experience of it. Maybe they're amplifying my nature, but maybe in the beginning there's a little bit icebreaker, like they may be commenting, and there's this kind of shallow guidance. But I think like the real guidance, that's kind of worth to mention, that takes longer somehow. It needs some time for interaction, and then there's more of a process of just me being with that person. That projector, for some time, it's very intense, we are connected, we spend time, it's blah blah blah, and we're just kind of being together more. So I would say there's layers of it, because I think I kind of always recognize projectors when I'm in a setting somehow. It's not like, there's a projector, we get drawn to each other, sometimes I can even see it somehow, and they see me, and so that's one realm of it somehow, and that kind of just somehow displays potential of some connections here and there. And I think Ra kind of said this very clearly, like, projectors, you get invitations all the time, but it's the one with the red carpet, where everything is there. That's the one you should go into. Because
that's some real clarity there. Can I share something?
Yeah, please.
Just when you were talking about paddling on the surfboard, it was like what came up really clearly was that, me or anyone would never want to get in between a generator and their life force and their life. It's like, don't try and don't try and interrupt. You know, here's the generator, here's their life force, here's their life, and this is what they do. This is what you do. This is your flow. This is your sacral energy. And it's like, you know, I was just sort of got a sense of like, imagine if that was me, if I was a generator, and then someone's like kind of trying to jump in there and tell me, oh no, your life, you know, trying to kind of change the course of my river, and it's not going to work. I can see it's not going to work.
I mean, I can just speak for myself, but you know, for me, and I'm very sensitive also. You know, I sniff out that very fast, and I just reject it somehow. But that just might be my nature somehow also as a generator. But I'm remembering some experiences now from that projector relationship, and you know, we got together, we started living together, and you know, every day, you know, routines, you're kind of crossing paths, blah blah blah. And I remember what she was doing was a bit cool somehow. It was like she was guiding me on very like mundane stuff in the kitchen, like, you know, why don't you put this like this instead? Like, you know, very small intelligent stuff that I hadn't seen. And to begin with, I mean, she didn't like, I know you should do this. No, not at all. She had observed my patterns for a little while, you know, and then she waited for the right moment when she maybe see that when I did that caused this, you know, repeatedly, and kind of like she waited until that time where like, then she like, can I show you something? And then you're like, yeah, sure. I responded to it, you know. And I mean, when you get an invitation, you have the invitation somehow, you know, you don't have to get the invitation each bloody time when you're
Thank God for that.
but and then she kind of like offered kind of a solution, and still I was like hesitant, like, you know, telling me something, okay, you know, still that was present somehow. But you know, over the course of time, like she demonstrated she had this ability. So in the end, I would say like after months, maybe a year, then I started to take her advice, you know. So you know, but it took a lot of process to get there, you know, a lot of trust, a lot of opening, and so coming back to, was it Jen's question? I think projectors stick out totally when it comes to this guiding thing. I mean, you are just someone else in the field, and I mean, there's just another story with generators, you know. Of course, we have projected channels. Of course, it can also be, but it's on another layer of things, I think. You know, it's not deep into the sacral and transformation. Just finishing I have a couple of experiences, I would say, at least on one hand, with manifestors that has taken in my sacral over time and has actually given me advice, you know, on how I should change. They've also been kind of, you know, been somehow modest, but more, but that's a different nature again. But it's an open sacral relationship. But of course, I mean, the projectors are the guides.
Yeah, that's a pretty clear answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We got another one here. Can I ask you? Let's go for another one. So
sure.
This is a good one. Pascal was asking about could you describe the dance between a projector and his sacral response? So basically he's saying that neither are supposed to initiate, right? So neither the projector nor the generator are here to initiate. But how does that, I mean, I guess you've talked a bit about it taking time, but how is that with the dance?
As you said earlier, the projectors is here for the other. So in this case, the projectors just need to wait until something happens with that sacral energy. I mean, just for the sake of the argument, if it's an open throw generator, just a generator, okay, you just sit there until the generator does something.
Yeah.
I mean, the generator doesn't need any external, you know, influence to get into action. The sacral just gets into action, no?
Responding to the sacral, yeah.
Sure. A generator need to use its sacral that way in order to know what is actually feeling about stuff. but the sacral just happens. So you know, the projector needs to wait until something happens, and I think that's a good projector, you know, who just sits on the fence, you know, and just let it.
This is a really, really, really nice distinction, because often as projectors we can think, oh, I'm waiting for someone to invite me. But actually, when you put it like that, what's really clear is, well, here's the generator, here's the projector. They're both sitting there, and they're both waiting for the energy to move in the generator.
Sure,
it moves.
And you have to remember, you know, the generator doesn't know what the beep is going on, because you're there in the first place, is going to guide this. So, like, sure, there's nothing to find out, you know. It's just for the projector to just sit there, observe when something happens, and then when something happens, okay, you know, you're using your system to, like, okay, you should this wait for it, you know, build up, and you know, let the generator make some mistakes, and you know, you know, better do that than being too early. I think that's very good advice, you know.
Yeah, that's super powerful. I almost get, like, you know, if I'm a projector and I'm in a relationship where I may be guiding someone, it's like my job is to become a master scientist and an artist of, you know, I've got to study that person. I've got to see, okay, well, last time they did this, and now this time it's similar but slightly different. Over time, I'm building up my awareness and my and that's my science. And then my art is going to be in, like, you know, sure, I can see something, but then how am I going to interact with that person?
Yeah, I think the art is the timing here, Dunstan. I mean, like, you're building up all of this, and you have to remember again, you know, the projector is like, you are next level, you know, in terms of those generators. So, you know, you can see the solution for that generator. You know, you will.
Yeah.
And, you know,
we can see it quite quickly.
Very quickly, and you know, but you have to remember, it can take so. I mean, that's why I brought up this story before with me, you know, being in that, you know, very kind of frustrated. I was just living just frustration every day, you know, peaking with anger sometimes, and she just had to wait until I was just so fed up that, you know, okay, I'll open up. You know,
I've had enough.
please give me your golden biscuit, you know, but not before that. And she tried before that, you know, and she tried very intelligently, and she tried very politely, you know, and you know, she was even a master in trying, so, you know, but it doesn't matter, you know. The sacral is ready when it's ready, you know. The sacral is life force, you know. It is not mine at all.
This is a real gift. This just here is gold. You know, the sacral's ready when it's ready, and this is such a nice thing. You know, it's like, hey, if you're a generator and you're here to figure out how your sacral works, cool. You know, if I'm a projector and I'm here, and one of my things is to figure out how generator sacral energy works. Hey, guess what? You know, we're kind of doing the same thing in a way. We're interested in sacral energy. So how can we really become students of that? How can we really pay attention? How can we have the patience to wait for the right timing? You know, and this takes it all to a next level, rather than, you know, this for me is actually a projector developing their craft, rather than, you know, oh, I haven't been invited, you know, what do I have to do to get an invitation? It's like, no, like, you know, it's always possible to observe energy and to notice the patterns and to see how people behave, if I can have the patience to see it and be like, hey, we're all, you know, we're all fucked up, we're all humans, there's no you know, it's like, it's so easy to go, well, here's what perfect should be, and here's what the chart says, and here's, oh, I should get straight in there and start the process. Well, no, it's really cool to hear that.
I think it's a very good distinction you make there also, like the craft you're speaking as a projector, obviously, and your craft as a projector is to, like, just, you know, enhance your ability to observe and don't take things personally, because we know from the knowledge how it's formatted, like, you know, you're not even about the other, you know. Your other is just it's just a means for you to really to see yourself in the end, you know. Projectors, I think many projectors, maybe I won't say many, but I think projectors maybe can fall in that shall we say, illusion of being, because they are able to see the other, they automatically think they see themselves. And I think that's a trajectory for a negative projector, for a trajectory for a projector to be on, because that leads to this, I think, this drive to be seen, to take in unhealthy energy, energy that just gets you from A to B, not into the end, etc. So I think, a projector, I mean, that this also, it illustrates what a mission you guys have. I mean, you really has to be so impersonal about stuff, and attached to what's going around with, on the outside of you, because to be able to guide it, you need to be objective about it, to be sharp somehow. So in the end, when the invitation, or when the invitation comes, when the situation actually opens up for transformation, then you can come in and do it.
Like we're ready. We're there.
Yeah, instead of pushing it, trying to push transformation, because you will burn out and we won't get any recognition. So I think that's not taking things personally, and just kind of enhancing your craftsmanship as a projector by just knowing that all situations you go into, you just observe it. This is not about you. You are here to see how that thing works, and
yeah, really, really what you said, like that gold nugget again, that reminder of like, actually we do have blind spots. It's not so easy for us to know ourselves as projectors, because we are all about focus on out, but actually, like, so some of us in the projector community, we have each other in that way of like, hey, what do you see, what might be going on here, can you give me your eyes on this one? It's yeah, but I think we definitely have that blind spot.
I think that blind spot is kind of, it's again cellularly somehow. You're cellularly not defined to you. I mean, it's just going out.
Yeah.
I can go up in and out somehow. I'm here to see myself. Forget about that outer, and that will lead me to myself. You're just not equipped with it, and it's not a minus. I think it's just more of that. Wow, full concentration. I can go into the other and see that other so deeply. That's just your soul.
That's what we do.
That's just mission, And so actually, this is something I learned about the projector. My projector friends is that, especially in kind of the new age field and the yoga field, and where it's all about defining yourself, and then like some maybe they get carried away on this self-realization mission and become better, because it's a bit dangerous for the projector, because that will literally never stop, because you're open, right? It can always be better, you can always improve,
right?
It's a never-ending journey somehow. And so you have to kind of, not you, but like, wanted to stop up to see the generator. You could, again, like, where is that generator in his shall we say process? You have to be smart enough and alert enough to see, even feel in where is he open for transformation. There's so many things to take in from the other, to shall we discern and be intelligent about, instead of jumping to that, like, oh, you should come here because I see that you can come here, blah, blah. It's much more intelligent to see, like, oh, how does
you can really hear it in your voice. It's so clear. Like, it's like where's that little opening? Like, where's that little opening of energy, and where's that opening?
And I guess this is my experiential experience. This is how it was to open me, and it was hard, and of all the things she offered me, I mean, thinking back at the relationship, I mean, it was just like having an angel in my life, and I could still be a frustrated brat, and just like, so and that just shows. And I remember we were joking about it, and she was like, "You're supposed to be 10 years into human design, and you're acting like this."
But isn't that the thing? It's like, you know, if we never actually go back and allow ourselves to be like a little brat or a child or have a tantrum or something, if it's never come out, if we've never gone through that, it's still in there, right? Like,
Definitely.
I don't know, whatever type we are.
Definitely. I mean, just this opportunity for me also to kind of like draw out the merit list here from our relationship, but just I'm an open solar plexus, and I remember good part of that journey, a couple of years. I remember I cried a lot, releasing a lot. I even called my professional crier. I could just sit on the bus and like, oh shit, it came up again. I was like, oh, you know, and then it was amazing. Now I am a bit more shy about it, I think, but I'm kind of over that, should we say, segment of healing in my life. But it was things like this, man. She really, you know, guided me into like. I mean, I obviously was the one doing it. It wasn't like she didn't invent it for me, but obviously she could like enforce that in me, like, oh, you should cry more, you know. I started singing, you know. There was all these very, very, very crucial things for me that I got in the process that guided me out of it, and not that guided me just out of that, you know, depression and the traumas and what it was, but you know, got to see my you know, amazing abilities as a generator, you know, and
Nice.
It's super cool. It's super cool.
Amazing. So you do a few interesting projects. I know you've got the festival. You had the first festival last summer.
Human Design Experience Festival.
Yeah.
I just call it the Human Design Festival now somehow, but you know, it's all about the experience. So yeah, you maybe had a question, maybe I'm just.
Well, I was just curious to hear more about, you know, how you roll in the world of human design. Like, what are you building as a generator? Like, what are you know, what's on? What projects are you working with at the moment?
Well, to kind of define my role a little bit, as I've come into it, it's clear to me as a Sphinx, and also being called so deeply to this knowledge that from that time in Thailand, you know, this was it for me. You know, it was just.
You're like right in.
It became life for me. I mean, I'll be totally honest about it, and I, of course, in the beginning had my, you know, resistance to that. I was because I've been always very kind of suspicious to authorities. I was like, you know, should I really take this so deeply into my life? And so I had some process about that. But as we have gone forward, I guess in Norway, locally, I've been a part there of kind of building the network from just being a pioneer, you know, and nobody heard about it. And then now it's a growing community. And I'm also very active on the international community, I would say, in groups and just, I'm just there always watching and having taking in the network. I would like to say I'm part of defining the human design network. I think it's happening these days, these years now, and it's really exciting to see how it's growing. And don't get me started on that even. I think that could be another discussion about kind of the history of human design. But I guess that's what I like to do is to connect people in the world with human design. To be specific, now I'm also a festival organizer, other type of festival. I'm also a yoga teacher and working with body work and retreats and stuff. So I always like that somehow, to organize stuff and bring people together.
There's been a big, I mean, I guess in the last 10 years, like, you know, nowadays, if you're in spiritual communities or whatever, and you say, oh, hey, human design, most people have at least heard of it. My guess would be 10 years ago, it was probably a pretty new thing for people, was it?
It was a totally new thing.
Right.
There was a couple of other people in Norway doing it, but literally a couple of other people.
Couple of pioneers.
Couple of pioneers, yes. So, but it wasn't a problem at all, because I think it was also clear to me to see back with all the readings we did, all the people, you know, there's always this recognition for people with human design. And but I would say the last 5 years, I said 2012 maybe is a marker for me after Ra passed. It's not because he passed, but I think it really happened after he passed. It's kind of like exploded a little bit. He interestingly says in some of his talks, you know, that, hey, you know, it's not only me who got this knowledge imbued, there's other people out there, you know, they will somehow just pop up somehow. And so, yeah, I think the community is really growing, you know, bigger and bigger, faster and faster somehow. Now, as you say, now all people in that kind of spiritual community, New Age community, alternative community, have heard about it now. And I think even 4 years ago, it wasn't like that actually. So we're in the midst of it now, I think.
Very cool. Very cool. I got a couple more questions here.
Yes, bring it on.
So the question is, do we feel different to the generator? And I'm going to tweak that one slightly and say, well, how do we feel different to the generator? Like, how do we, I mean, you've already spoken about this, but like, how is it when you're with a generator versus with a projector? Like, how do we feel different?
Ooh, there's just night and day.
Clear difference, huh?
Clear difference. Maybe I can, for myself, illustrate it best by kind of comparing my relationship with the projector and the one I'm with now, a generator. 3 years into the past relationship, I'm realizing that, wow, you know, I nothing wrong with her. Everything was, you know, really good friends. I mean, there was all, you know, this perfect relationship in many, many ways. But there was just this, there wasn't life force there. When I came into her aura, it was, I mean, I have to remember, you know, the beginning, it's just my aura, it's just my sacral, you know, and I liked it. I liked myself, you know, and it's a bit kind of a bit, shall we say, I don't know, it's a bit mixed, this kind of realization actually, because it's not that something was wrong with our relationship at all, but I could literally see how the energy in the relationship surrounding around the sacral and the open sacral, like, you know, I had come to a point, you know, I had transformed, and then, you know, I'm coming into myself, and I'm realizing that what wasn't there basically. And
you noticing that the sacral, that undefined sacral in the other person, it's all your sacral energy.
Yeah.
Whereas with the generator, presumably you feel that sacral energy coming back at you.
And yeah, more than that, I mean, I could say something like, you know, I mean, it was almost my energy somehow, you know, you know, there was no energy in her somehow, but that's not the case, because that was perfect in the beginning, you know, it was just her open sacral taking in mind a very intelligent way, and wow, you know, all the things we did together, and just to give you a kind of a little bit insight also into my personal story. When we got together, I was kind of very, you know, I'm kind of trying to describe the transformation she led me through, but I was in a sense where I was kind of like very dependent somehow, emotionally in the relationship, where I was like, you know, we're together, she's gonna be my wife, like, we need to be together. I needed the security of the longevity of it somehow. She was more in the now, you know, we don't know what happens, you know. She even said that I cannot promise you that I won't have other partners, because you know, that was before she knew she was a projector. Looking back at that, I was like, wow, how intelligent is that of a projector to stay in a relationship so early. She was basically, maybe I need to take in other sacrals also. So I was on that side of it to begin with, but after 3 years, I was on the complete other side, and I'm realizing through our journey that, like, wow, she was kind of amplifying it in the beginning and just showing me how I was, you know. I became less dependent. I became more in myself, and then realizing, like, oh no, you know, just this is not right to say, but you know, she's not good enough, you know, or, you know, I need something more, you know, you know, it wasn't like, so it was such an interesting you know, journey for me to come to see that relationship to my own sacral, and then I guess like what I realized with her, or for my own sake, is that I needed a sacral in my life.
You wanted other sacral energy apart from just yours.
I needed this, my sacral energy, to bounce off another sacral energy, so they could kind of co-create, you know, in our everyday bubble, instead of coming in and her aura takes, and we are onto this like new, like, you know, what's to learn today, you know, or, you know, what can we find out today, you know, and I mean, isn't this just like, it's almost sad to say it somehow, it kind of, because I mean, everything that kind of benefited me so deeply in the beginning is at some point, like, you know, not applicable anymore.
Well, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? If we're here to be guides, you know, it's kind of like, if we're potent as projectors, it's very alchemical. Now that's not necessarily the same thing as it's going to last forever, is it?
No.
It's like, hey, you know, there's probably going to be some kind of shift, or some kind of energy is going to move, but then you know, like to then say, well, that's going to, you know, maybe it's done. Maybe that's how what happened needed to happen.
I could literally somehow at some point see how, you know, inside of my construct anyways, how kind of a projector generates, projector sacral meeting happens, and the intelligence, like the raw sheer intelligence of the projector construct, is that in that initial meeting, that projector beams goes into the other, goes deep in, and it kind of like reads the whole system, like it's just like full IE, just like download, and gets a receipt, and like, you know, this is up with this is this, and from that is kind of automatically calculated kind of trajectory, you know. This will take some time, and it's all made in that first initial contact. Sometimes, okay, it doesn't happen, you know, new deal comes in, but like in that meeting, like, wow, there's some quantum mechanics going on, like
it's nice. This links back with what we were saying earlier, right? Because there can be that instant recognition of, oh wow, I can see where this person has this potential, I can see their talent, I can see where they're tripping over them, but then the question is it correct? Is this correct for me as a projector? And that's a whole different thing, because it's like, well, how does my input, is it received? You know, like, how does that work? Is there an opening here? And of course, like you said, again, it takes time and patience to establish that, right? It's like, how do you know? You can see something in an instant, but knowing how two people are going to be together takes time.
I guess to honor kind of the mechanics of human design, taking in the authority here from emotional couple somehow, you know, okay, you know,
right,
you know, who knows, and I guess that is true with every authority, right? But we have our authority, you know, to kind of check this with, right? And I think maybe
right.
You know, for projectors, really, like you know, I think that's a good, you know, it's a good character to get into your inner authority, is to be able to discern what invitations to go into or not.
Right. For sure. I'm still here.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, let's have another question. Let's see what we've got here. We've got a couple more. Okay, this is a juicy one. Can you describe the feeling of an uninvited projector, meaning one who isn't correct or is in the not self?
Yes, I can. Well, I won't modify the words, actually. I mean, it's super annoying. Energetically, I mean, it's something that makes me angry instantly. And, you know, there's no justification for that anger, I mean, in the moral world, but energetically, it's like, woof. And I think that has to do with the projector's ability to come so closely into me. So when they are not coming in on a correct invitation, but they're coming in anyway, it's there's something else going on there somehow, and I would call that, I've called that hijacking my energy sometimes. I mean, that's a certain setting, I guess, that can happen in a social setting. I think it never happens to me one-on-one, but literally the energy feels just like, so it's almost feeling electricity in my hands. I mean, that's kind of painful. It's almost painful, I would say.
Painful, yeah. So I had this feeling of like, hey, how did you get in there? What are you doing in there? Who said you could go in there? Like, whoa, hang on a minute here. and yeah.
I mean, I just wanted to be very childish about the kind of feeling in the aura field, because it's I mean, that's how it feels. But over the years, I got to see this thing that when I got into this mode I mean, I would say that my majority of the time it's been very nice projector meetings. That's I think why I'm here today somehow. It's not because I don't like projectors, but I guess I used the terminology in the beginning that, I blasted projectors in the beginning. So I mean, there was this rudeness in the beginning, element of rudeness, I would say. But what I learned to see is that even though there was this resistance maybe in our energy field, and the projector maybe a bit on me, peeking on me, or there's this thing, there was always something there to pursue somehow. So I didn't do that in the beginning, but when I got wiser about it, I would kind of like try to stop it in the social setting and wait until I had a projector one-on-one, and I would kind of engage. I would invite it to kind of come in, and then that would never end in something bad or bad energy. I would always lead to something very constructive, because I guess it took some transcendence for me in the first place to actually pull away from it and actually go back to the projector, and kind of, because I wanted to be intelligent about the situation instead of just going into the normal, conditioned way of being in the social context somehow.
So I remember when we first spoke before we had this, like our last conversation, it was really interesting. You described a situation where you're like, hey, this projector's clearly, like, I can see they're doing not self stuff where they're attracting attention or whatever it might be. But then you said, actually, then the moment later you saw that same person, like, and you're like, wow, actually they've got some value to bring here. So I guess that's like just brings it back to how we can, for me, I'm like, well, I can be really fucked up and retarded and still be a genius at the same time. It's not like the ego's like, oh, you either need to be switched on or not, you're either enlightened or you're not. But it's like, hey, we've all got it all going on at the same time. And just because we can be deep in the not self and the bitterness doesn't mean that we can't, be valuable as guides in the next breath.
Exactly. But again, you have an existential life journey. You're about the other. So like, you can go for 40 years and the other was just shit. And then suddenly one day, next day, that you meet the correct other, and like, boom, you full turned on, because you were turned on anyways. You didn't. I mean, you were just like, you're just a construct somehow. But I think that bitterness grows as a not self construct when you identify it kind of over time, like, and I guess eventually you will just start to attract those situations, just keeping it a not self. Look, I guess when we're into the domains of the not self, we all have our reasons to be there somehow, and it's never, it's never the knowledge somehow, right? I mean, a projector can have all his reasons to be not self. He can be traumatized. He can have it can be very fortunate for that. I mean, there's always this kind of entrances into it. But in the form principle, I've been amazed to see that, you're just kind of on. So if you wait for that right situation, it might come. And it's another thing to kind of identify with that, don't identify kind of with that bitterness as you go. Identify bitterness, remove yourself from it. You know, you're taking in something that doesn't work.
Right, because not being invited doesn't necessarily have to create bitterness. The bitterness is how we engage with it, isn't it? It's like the feeling of how we engage with the fact that we have something to give and it's maybe not being received how we want it to be received. Yeah. And and that thing you were, it's so interesting, isn't it? Because like, how do we as projectors, like, there's something about knowing our own value, despite the fact that for anyone else to experience it is going to be dependent on timing, context, people, like you said, those right moments where it's like, so in the meantime, it's like when we're waiting, it's like, we just need to know, well, I'm just me. I'm waiting, and who knows, it may be just around the corner, it may be in 10 years, it may, it happens if and when it happens. And that doesn't say anything about me. It's just
I think a projector needs to have somehow a kind of a long-term strategy of really, coming to a point where you know who you are, because you're dealing with sacrals, who are here to know themselves, and you could actually make them know themselves instantly. I mean, that's a potential. But the projector is actually through those successful encounters with generators that make them see themselves. As you add people into your trajectories, all of them, over time, that makes you see who you are. But because you're dealing with people one-on-one, you're one-to-one people, but in the end, you are people who deal with a lot of energy, and it shows you kind of where you fit in, where you are called in as a guide.
So you get to be like, hey, I can by the effect, by the impact I maybe did or didn't have on all these different people over time. That's how I get to know myself as what have I done. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I think with sometimes these conversations is like the the mind's trying to figure out what's going on, but it's like sometimes the magic here, I could just feel those certain moments here where they're just like
definitely
those little moments. So there was another question here. I'm not sure I fully get the question, but Pascal pointed out that there was one more. Let's see if we can get something juicy from this. So the question was about if you feel a push to invite a projector to guide. Let me see if I can find the original question. The question was, do you feel clearly the attraction to invite him to guide or do something? So I guess the question is like, I think I know where this is coming from. I think it's like a lot of projectors, we come in and it's like, how do we learn what's an invitation and what's not an invitation? And of course we learn, okay, if there's recognition there, then that's good. If it's personal to us, then that's an invitation. But the question is about, do you feel clearly the attraction to invite the projector to guide or do something? Yeah, it's kind of like, I think he's asking where the invitation comes from, like how do you then invite a projector?
I think from my understanding here, the question is like, how do I know, if that, I would say that some projectors I just want to work with, I kind of like, I just want them in my life.
Yeah.
It's a very strong magnetic attraction. But, it's not always so formal all the time, right?
Right.
It's the energy of it. So, I mean, it's our interaction. I would say if there's a very, fruitful connection, there's a strong magnetic pull together. It's, I guess my experience with projectors is that kind of, I can also kind of, that falling in love, when you meet someone, no matter what sex you are, but I can get that feeling with projectors actually. And it's so interesting because I can kind of just remove the whole sexual dimension from it, because like, it's still the same. Like, you want to be together, talk because you connect, there's this mutual recognition. So it's a field of energy that you kind of like you're in. But trying to be formal about it, I think that's very important also. So what the question again is that, when I'm aware of what's going on, and I recognize that other person and brings value to my life, then I do invite, I become more polite, I'm more formal, I ask questions, would you like to do this or this or this or this, and I think it's not like, I'm not asking you, the projector, to them to know themselves, I'm just checking their capacity,
It sounds like it just happens naturally. Like just how you described it was so clear. It's like you get this feeling of, hey, I want this person in my life, and then it kind of flows from there. It's like,
yeah. But I think that this formality of the invitation, just to kind of,
yes,
I think as a flag I like to wave somehow, because I can also see myself, I can get a lot, but I think from the projector relation, but I don't always give recognition, just because I don't think it's so important to say like, wow, what you did with me there was really good, because I can just maybe think that the projector even knows that I feel that about the projector, you see, like.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when you were talking about your relationship previously, like, I'm sure, I know for me as a projector to hear that, it's really beautiful to hear that there's that recognition there, that acknowledgement of like, hey, being with this person was amazing in these ways. You weren't saying it was perfect, but it's like, wow, this really brought value to my life. So that definitely, like, as a projector, it's kind of like, yeah, cool.
Because I think also think when you are in symbiosis with a projector and a generator, manifesting generator, I think for the generator, or I just say generator for both of them, right?
Sure.
I don't want to say both of them. It takes too long time or the energies, but that recognition, that formal thing becomes important. Let me try to describe it. I experienced, I think, that the recognition for the projector when we were in the relationship, and I was kind of transforming. I was taking that advice. That was a recognition. Like, I was just following that advice. Like, that was enough for that point. But later into it, maybe that. Well, we moved to another stage, so that maybe required more physical recognition, like, here's a present for you, or here's a ticket to, so it's a relationship that needs to be nurtured also all the time with recognition. So trying to come back to the question again, I guess I lost it a little bit, but
asked again a little something here which may be useful. Like, how do you know if a projector is right for you? And it's like the reverse of knowing we're recognized. So the projector's waiting to say, am I recognized? Am I invited? I think she wants to know what's going on your side of that equation, like, because oftentimes as projectors, if someone says, oh, could you help me with this thing? And then we're there and we want to feel like, okay, is it really me? Is it really like that they're recognizing me, or is it just they need a person to help? So I think she wants to know what's on your end of that dynamic.
But a generator can be very infant in his way of expressing its own nature and what it needs,
Yeah.
So I don't know if I have a clear answer to this, actually. No, I don't, actually. I mean, it's again, it's a bit formal somehow, the situation. Again, when you're coming into it, it's I mean, projectors are not here to do the work of the generator. I mean, if you would get a very simplified invitation from a generator, and you feel some recognition in it, maybe you would counter that with a question, you know. Maybe you would see the generator posing his question, and you would see something about that generator in his question, and then you would like, okay, you know, what's going on here, you know.
I get a feeling like it kind of just works, and sometimes we can't think about it all too much, you know, like it just works. And that, you know, for me, what's real clear is that clarity that you were sharing of like, yeah, I want this person in my life, you know, and you didn't say the sound, but I could feel that energy in you're like, yeah, I want to get to know this person.
For example, I wanted to mention my mother, not mother-in-law, but my mother as a grandmother-in-law here.
Yeah.
She's a projector. And she's about 75 maybe. And you know, it's not like I, you know, found her on the street and invited her into my life. She kind of came with the package, right? But it's so interesting to see that she obviously doesn't know jack about human design, but like it's so obvious she's a projector, and we're not even speaking the same languages. But she being a projector, I'm quite clear about our ability to communicate anyway somehow, and so it's in this guiding relationship, because she wants to show me something, you know, with the house or whatever, and you know, I'm in her house somehow, so you know, I just have to comply with those rules. But still, there is this room for me in kind of inviting her. There is this room to because she's kind of seeing me and taking me into her projection beam somehow, even though I haven't really asked for it somehow. But the relationship still is there, and I guess I have a lot of respect for projectors now. So it's my respect, and you know, like I have become to know them now somehow. So if I know they're a projector, I will. If I wouldn't have known, I will treat them somehow differently, and I won't say, you know, it's not like, oh, you need different treatment. I will, you know, it would instantly tune me a little bit somehow.
That makes sense. Yeah, neat. Well, is there anything you want to tell us about your chart? You mentioned about being the cross of the Sphinx, which is a very interesting incarnation cross. It's kind of the first one, isn't it? Yours as well. It's like the one that's the first in that quarter. Maybe we could have a little look at your chart, and maybe you could tell us one or two things about your chart. I'm hoping Raluca can put this on for us, because I did this update on my computer, and things that worked.
Or I also can share it with you. Just let me know.
You got it there as well. Let's give her a look. She's pretty good at these.
Okay, cool.
So, because you got 3 defined centers and obviously 6 undefined. You've got a totally open head, and you're a manifesting generator because you have the sacral connected up to your throat through the G center. You've got 2 channels. We said you're a 2-4 already. And here you are.
Here I am. Cool. Here I am. There I am.
There you go.
Yeah, so you know, pretty straightforward here, I would say.
It's very red on the left, isn't it? Your chart.
Yes, you mean the
unconscious.
Yes. Yes, you tell me what you see. What do you?
One thing I did notice is when I looked at the
because do you want me to talk about all the red stuff? I don't think it's going to be so.
No, I just noticed. I just didn't see that.
They are, after all, unconscious in me. So
right. When I looked at your chart in the mandala view, I noticed that all your gate activations were almost all around the top of the chart. So that was interesting. What do I see? Well, I can see you've got none of the awareness centers defined, right? So you have the three in the center, the spleen, the emotional, solar plexus, and the ajna, of course, are all open. So my brother's actually quite similar to this, one of my brothers. So how does that work as far as sensing? Like, do you feel like you sense things through other people? Like, do you calibrate off of how other people sense things? Do you find that you heighten those senses that others have? Like, can you say a little about those awareness centers?
Yes. Let me just like pick up the memory again. It's fun to be around people, you know, with this potentially, but it can be really a torment alone. Having all of that potential, you know, connection to the awareness with, I mean, I know a lot about them. Emotional awareness, I can talk about waves, I can talk about the highs and the lows, being not connected in between them, you know, being emotionally, you know, I can talk on and on and on about it. And I think I've gathered a lot of, you know, intelligence about that. But, you know, I still find myself when I'm alone, you know, to be just, if I feel nervousness, you know, my not self-mind can, like, you know, start, what is he nervous about? Is it this again? You know, is it that? I'm going to die again? You know, is it just, it's such a paradox. And I guess my chart illustrates the relationship between inner authority and outer authority very well. Because mine is so straightforward, as I said. It's like and you know, I won't respond to anything that I don't like. I have a very strong sacral to the G center, so I think I am quite connected to my sacral. I can recognize when my voice is too nasal, and you know, if I would be too much up here. I enjoy to hear the bass, you know, the volume in my voice somehow. So, but there is potential for great awareness, having them open, but it's a potential to really get lost in them when I'm alone. So yeah.
I noticed one thing with my brother. We both go kite surfing, and I have this thing where I'm a 3-5, I'm splenic, so I always find, like, if I'm kite surfing, I totally trust my instincts. And I've had some very interesting experiences with rocks and offshore wind, and it's very windy. And my brother and his friends came to stay, and my memory of my brother was like, you know, we do some fun things together. He trusts me. He's got a good sense of adventure, and his mates saw the situation, and they were like, no way we're going out there. And my brother, he has all those centers open, like all the awareness centers open. He doesn't have the spleen defined. So I kind of got the feeling like in that situation, he was taking his sense of, is this safe, from his mates. So yeah. It's kind of like, you know, like if there's some meerkats or whatever, and like there's a predator, and one of them, you know, the first one notices, and then the other ones notice that the scent, you know, the one who's aware has, and then they're like, oh, that, you know, Fred's freaked out, so we should all pay.
Yeah.
You know, the
last one run away, and everybody runs away, but the first one keeps out. It wasn't anything at all. Somehow.
But it's that kind of sense of danger through other people, you know, like being aware of danger from. So that was something I was like, oh, maybe that's because he's all open in those centers.
Well, you know, it's really open, you know, and you know, it's a matter of kind of listening to it somehow, because it's a stream somehow, the openness. So you know, I have many cases, incidents that I can look back at where, you know, I had certain thought constructs in my mind, or, you know, some emotional, just felt heavy, you know, and when I'm in the midst of it, I might not realize it, you know. I can realize that, like, okay, I can realize my kind of my parameters, like, okay, I'm using much time in the head now, but I might not realize that the actual thing I was thinking about, bit detrimental maybe, you know, that kind of hook on into the conditioning field somehow. But I've learned enough now to know that if I'm too much in my head, you know, I should just start to walk a little bit, you know, use my sacral. So then I will just forget about it somehow. But then I can come back again somehow. And then time can go past. And then suddenly I realized that, you know, the neighbor in the first floor had, you know, she died of cancer. And you know, and then like, wow, you know, it's amazing that I've been thinking about cancer for, you know, like weeks now, months now, you know, and after that, it was like I didn't think about cancer anymore, you know. So and in my mind, I was just like, oh, you know, should I go check my, you know, it was just like the mind was just kind of picking up on the danger somehow. I was going on in another person's life. And my nutsack was very ready somehow to kind of take in that as my own misery somehow.
I guess you asked me what I see, and I'm looking at your chart again, and I'm like, wow, you're very open, aren't you? So you've got the sacral energy, you've got the life force energy, you've got that kind of like, that's very clear that we're talking to a sacral being. You know, that feels very different to any of the other interviews that we've done. And you also mentioned, you know, feeling everything, being very sensitive, and that makes a lot of sense, being as, you know, all of your periphery is undefined, to be able to sense and feel the environment around you and the people around you and the emotions and the and also you've only got your pressure centers, you've just got those 2 gated activations on the root. Is that something that resonated for you, feeling like that pressure can push you into action or make you think too much unnecessarily?
Definitely. You know, looking at my chart, you would look at the open head here, and that's, you know, being the conditioning factor in my chart. We learn that the open center without any activations is where kind of not self is presenting itself more. So but it's the open root I have experience from, you know, how the open root can really thwart your life. You know, that's just a not self pattern of the open root, where the not self has grown accustomed to using a bit too much cortisol, adrenaline every day just to go buy bread, just to do this, just being in a mode where like everything just happens so you can end it. I mean, that's for me, that's the open root. I mean, it's such a misery because you can literally go to the forest, you know, and you can be like, you know, I just gotta go to the forest and be done with it and come back, you know, and go back with it and just sit down so I can just worry about some new stuff to do, you know, and that's just okay. And the not self clutter of that is one thing. I can make you depressed, but what's actually happening is that you're pushing out stress hormones into your bloodstream, so your body is actually living out the life of being in stress while you're actually just going slowly in the forest. So yeah, I guess open root specifically for me has been a theme, and I'm kind of finally slowing down in my life the last 2 years. And you know, my construct there is like the open root. You just see all these open centers, like, you know, there's open root and like it's a wildfire, you know, like they spread to the other centers, open emotional, nervous, you know, spleen, you know, drug, you know, substance abuse, this, you know, whatever, and then the mind is there on top, and then kind of the open crown is kind of fortifying it somehow. You know, yeah.
Because ultimately it's quite simple, isn't it? With just what you have defined, it's like you got the sacral, you got the G, you got the throat. It's very, very straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Single definition. It's like, how's my life force energy coming up and creating manifestation?
But then again, you know, that's what I'm here to do, you know, and that's what I'm doing. So I think coming back to one of your first questions, you know, what did human design for me? It's like, I think one of the biggest things it has done is that I have revealed my mind. You know? It's no longer just like my mind, just like it's just like full right. It's just North Korea in here, you know. But now it's like no. Like we have started to grow a suspicion with my mind here, like over time, and then you know, actually being very pragmatic about it. I can maybe find myself before in weeks of kind of like high intensity, the roots. Maybe has been some commotion, drama, emotionally in my life, you know, and then maybe I've been treating my body a bit bad, you know, in that same thing, and then I can just still come to that point where like, you know, I'm here, you know, I'm supposed to be here, you know, my inner G center compass has brought me here, and then I can just like take all of that from the open crown, like whatever it has to kind of like identify and just throw it away. And I think that's one of the gifts with human design, is that it has made me you know, able to throw that not so garbage away.
Nice. That's super nice.
And you know, I might still have to do, should I say, have to do, you know, I mean, I should stop whatever was compromising my spleen. I should sit more still instead of just jumping up to check my email, you know. But still, just to realize, it's just like, it's just not self bullshit. It's such a relief.
Yeah, nice. I love it. That's a great picture. Like, fuck that off.
yeah.
Get that gone. Super cool. Well, I can feel my energy. I'm feeling like this has been really juicy, and I'm feeling like my energy's kind of like just kind of getting to that time. We're nearly done. But is there anything else you wanted to talk about or share?
Well, actually, now that I have the opportunity a little bit, just to kind of a little bit promotion also, I just want to say like this has been really great, and I mean, this is the second time we kind of really engage with each other, and again, like this is so the projector generate relationship. Like we tuned on, man. You're in a boat somewhere, I'm in the mountains somewhere, but still, and you're recognizing when the energy goes down, and I can like, yeah, that's because I need to fucking pee. Sorry, I need to pee, you know, like coming back and we're on again. Like, so I really enjoyed it a lot, and kind of touching back to the festival. That we're doing.
Yeah, tell us about your events coming up, and how can people find out more, and what's it about, and that'd be really nice to hear about.
Sure, I've tried to keep it a bit short. I mean, it's obviously.
Tell us. I mean, you know, we got us projectors. We always have time to we're sitting around waiting, so we got time to look things up. But I guess my question's like, what's it about, and who's it for, and where is it?
So this is the opportunity I see, and because with the first festival we did this year, I you know, my journey with projectors has been so important in my life, and they've been like literally, you know, so key in my human design development. And that has also to do with human design, of course, because we could use the knowledge, but like one thing is to use the knowledge with the generator, it's like, okay, but using it with the projector is like, wow, you're on, you know, it's playtime, it's action. So it was, you know, important for me to somehow send out an invitation to the projectors in the community to come to this festival. And I was kind of searching for the right opportunity, invitation. And I think we had a really great amount of projectors this year. I think, you know, it was around 20-30% projectors. But I really, you know, through you now in this conversation, I really like to invite the projectors to come there and take part of it, because again, you are very important to the whole kind of development of the festival. Also, having the projectors there, you know, we had Darshana Deborah Matthews. She's a projector teacher. Obviously, it's a huge golden nugget, but just having the projectors in the room where we're teaching, just having them there kind of gave this, just balanced out the energy in a very, very nice way. So if you are a projector or anyone and you feel like coming, just you can go to our Facebook page. We have I think that's the most active one we're doing kind of day-to-day basis. We also have a website, humandesignfestival.com. And I'm also here to kind of talk to you about it and to give you, you know, the version of the festival and answer you questions and stuff like that. So I'm available for that. I'm open to be contacted and talk about it. And
maybe we could put those links in. We could put the website, the Facebook page, and maybe a link to your Facebook profile or something if people
sure.
video. So I think Pascal will be able to do that, and then people can follow that up. But I think you've got because you've got a New Year celebration, and then there's the one again in the summer time.
Yes, we have a Red New Year celebration now in the January, and then we have the festival in May, and just to so much to say about it, but I think I found a perfect location for a human design event of our nature. It is a festival that encompasses 4 pillars that we have defined. But you can kind of see behind me here: education being the human design part, experiment, embodiment, and entertainment. And as I said, the human design education is the human design bit. We want to offer a very professional, high level human design teachings from the best teachers in the world. I'm quite, shall we say, a bit religious, quote unquote, about it's being a human design festival. It's not, we're not going into other fields when it comes to human design. Human design is, you know, the pole of the festival. But then we have, you know, we have body work in yoga, meditation, you know, performances, dancing, you know, we have all of these other things within that holistic New Age umbrella that we like to invite in, and using human design again as the kind of the basis of it. So, you know, just knowing your types, we had wristbands with color indication for the types.
Okay.
So you could be in a yoga.
I mean, this to me is like the really interesting, juicy part, isn't it? It's like, you know, we all connect on social media, and that's great to meet people, but to actually, you know, to hang out with people in person, in aura, like this is obviously very different to what we can do if we're just typing. But then again, it goes to a whole nother level when we're in person, and we can we can, you know, experience things with our bodies more through that connection.
That's it, basically. That's what this festival is about, just to be together in aura, and that's my experience also from Norway. You know, the way we did there over the years was I invited my teacher over. He did readings to newcomers, recruits, kind of, you know, and then we had a course, and, you know, people got hooked on. So this is how it got built, basically. But he came maybe 1 to 2 times a year, and I was remembering back, like looking forward so much to when he came. One thing was, so he, of course, as a conduit for the knowledge, but just being in that forum of people using the knowledge, I was just like, oh, I just love that so much. And of all new age type of you know, networks, I also been into different ones, you know, shamanism and everything. I think
there's a lot of stuff around, isn't there?
There's a lot of stuff around, you know, and I think the human design community has the #1 kind of sobriety and kind of that perfect egoless and ego, you know, type of. It has this very nice approach to the community at large, I think. And what I see is, you know, in general, people really they love knowledge, they want to help other people, and I think that's just so unique. And I think the human design community is a unique community, and you know, there's always, as Ra said, you know, there will always be the village jackass or the village villain, you know, there will always be this and that, but we have a really great community, and I want to give you a recognition to that also with what you're doing here. I think, you know, this is the way to go forward in the community. Just meet with people, and we can talk about the experiences and
yeah, I think there's something about that. I think it's kind of overwhelming to start with, where you think, oh my God, there are so many types, centers, gates, people, but then you sort of chip away one by one, and then you kind of like, you know, you're thinking, okay, well, what if I talk to one person, and then I talk to another person, and you know, and it kind of just takes on a life of its own, and it's like, well, hey, you know, let's speak to another person, and I mean, I'm split definition, so for me, having a team has been really cool this year to help to do that. And who knows where it's going to go? But this is exciting. We're now, we've spoken to a generator, so like, yeah,
really, really good. Yeah, I was really looking forward to this all day.
Awesome, man.
I was even waking up a bit early. I couldn't sleep, and I was like,
And we had some daylight here, which is always interesting when it's kind of like the shortest day, so
actually now we're talking because now then it's getting dark here. I'm nocturnal. That's my PHS. So
you're a night person.
Yes, I'm in a morning solar rhythm here after I came to Romania. Mostly when I was in Norway, I was much more in a nocturnal rhythm. But it took some time to get into that. It wasn't just like, I tried actually early in my experience just to like, okay, I just eat when it's dark, and I starve myself almost. But yeah, now I'm a bit more in a solar rhythm as such. I'm waking up earlier, but I can, it's without a doubt, it's when it's dark, my cognition opens.
Yeah, nice. Super interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Well, who knows? We may talk again sometime soon. I don't know what. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but yeah, I'm pretty much done with energy. So
I think this is perfect. This has been again. Thanks for the invitation. I mean, I have a projected channel to the throat there. So
right.
So, this has been again, just to kind of, it gets complicated somehow. I'm a generator, but my throat is a projected throat. So this was a great opportunity for me to share, and thank you a lot for that. And yes, let's stay in touch. I'd love to talk to you more.
Yeah, awesome, Christo.
Mm-hmm. And thanks for all the questions, guys. And yeah, happy to answer questions.
Beautiful. Catch you soon, man.
Catch you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.